if you weren't awake by now, that certainly did it for you when you sort of salted around the kitchen there having your cup of coffee. Geraldine Latty there and shouted. Now, did you know that Manchester holds a large Buddhist community, but each part of the community follows a different teaching? Lama Jampa Thaye is my special guest this week and is trained in the Sakya and Karma Kagyu traditions of Buddhism, and he joins me here in the studio. Now, this is a whole new language for me, I have to say. I never realized there were so many possibilities with Buddhism. Could you tell us about your role in the Buddhist community?
Yeah, I studied for many years with a number of different Tibetan lamas, and gradually they entrusted me with responsibility to teach their students, their English students initially. So I've kind of followed in their footsteps, you could say. So I'm the kind of meditation teacher and guide to a number of people in this country and abroad. And in this way we've set up a number of different centres and groups. I'm kind of like the director of these groups and centres.
How did you get involved in the first place?
Well, it goes back to my teenage years. So many things do for most people. At that time I'd been brought up a Catholic, but without losing respect for the great teachings in Catholicism, I really found my way to Buddhism by reading the works of American authors like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. But it wasn't until the early 70s that I actually met any of my Buddhist teachers, any Tibetan lamas. So I'd been a kind of Buddhist in spirit, as it were, for a few years, and then I started kind of properly training in 1972.
Was it very difficult to move from Catholicism to Buddhism?
In some ways, no, because Catholicism, you know, I think, like all Christianity, endows one with a moral seriousness about life. One takes seriously the questions about how should we live and, you know, how should we conduct ourselves. And those questions, I think, were very valuable for me. It led me to find Buddhism was the philosophical and religious tradition that best answered them for me.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. Now, you're talking about Sakya and Karma Kagyu traditions of Buddhism. What does that mean?
Well, Tibetan Buddhism, the Buddhism that developed in Tibet, of course it originated in India, but developed in Tibet and the neighbouring Central Asian regions, gradually coalesced into four major schools. But those schools are not, we shouldn't really understand them as kind of different churches in a sense with any kind of legacy of great rivalry and bitterness. They're simply different approaches, and they have much in common. And so the kind of divisions between these lines, these spiritual traditions, are not really watertight.
Okay. Sometimes people suggest that something you're just referring to there, that very often with all the different religions we have, it creates more conflict than love.
Well, I think that's the way we human beings are. We can opt for goodness or opt for hatred. And I don't think it's religious teachings themselves. I think it's the ends to which we put them. And the same goes for religious institutions. I feel we need institutions. Even to say, let's meet on Wednesday and meditate is a kind of institution. But of course, we can subvert that. We can turn that into a kind of game for our ego, a game to advance our power. And with that, once we start turning religion into a kind of basis for power, then comes hatred and division and jealousy. But it's not in the religious teachings themselves. It's in how we choose, in that case, to misapply them, which we can do with anything. Politics, art, love, all these things can be misused.
Okay. Also, you know, when I think about Buddhism, and you're mentioning meditation, it's a term that's sort of been bandied around for many decades now, and people go, meditate, and they see a certain kind of moment. What about you?
Well, I think that meditation is a way of cultivating the kind of correct perception of what it is to be alive. And from the Buddhist point of view, suffering originates in our mistaking what is the nature of our mind, what is the nature of the world. It comes from that kind of error that we impose upon the world due to our own prejudices and preconceptions. So to meditate is in a sense simply to clarify things, to come to appreciate each moment as it really is. And for that we need to simplify and direct our awareness to the present moment. All the different forms of meditation begin with that, as we call it, mindfulness, that awareness of the actual reality of being alive here and now.
It is a concept I think people are grasping much more in today's society, living in the moment, living in the present moment. The power is in the present moment. But actually applying it isn't always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, well, we say, that beginning a kind of regular practice of meditation is about 1/10 of the journey. The other 9/10 is then bringing that into everyday life. Look, it's complex. You get up off your meditation cushion, you're immediately in kind of inactivity. You're making breakfast, you're thinking about your job, you're thinking about your family, you're interacting with people. But if we lose that sense of presence, that sense of awareness there, then we'll find that we're swept away once again by the kind of torrent of our disturbing emotions and our prejudices and our ignorance. So bringing that freshness, that clarity, that being present to each and every moment is the most vital task for anybody.
How do you suggest, I mean, it all sounds wonderful and something that people would, I'm sure, would like to be able to do, but how, give them a few little stepping stones to start this?
Well, I think that you should start to pay attention to your day from the very moment you wake up. If you can, as it were, ground yourself at the beginning of the day, take a few, even if it's not a formal spiritual practice, if you can take a few minutes before rushing into the day, sit on your sofa, go and sit by the window, sit somewhere where it's quiet. Don't, apologies here, turn the radio on immediately. Certainly don't turn the daytime TV on. Don't plunge into the papers. Take some time out to just check where you are and how you feel about things before anything else. So build in pauses, a pause at the beginning of the day and pauses throughout the day. When you're in your office, sit for a minute. But when you get home, sit for a minute. Do this. Be present to your life.
And as you were even saying that, talking about pausing, I was interrupting.
That's the way we are.
And meditation, how does somebody get into that frame of mind? Is that through the pausing, the reflecting?
Yeah, it's through the pausing. But I mean, look, the most simple thing about it is that we breathe. Mm-hmm. All human beings breathe. It's automatic. And so therefore, paying attention to the quality of our breathing. I don't mean kind of yogic breathing, anything, but just paying attention to our breathing going in and out brings us back into the present moment. You'll find that your thoughts slow down. You find that you develop a kind of sense of alertness and stillness just by tuning into the breathing. So if nothing else, do that.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Pause and breathe.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed. That's Lama Jampa Thaye.